Hey guys, how's it going? Today I'm going to be talking about getting Endo. Endo is one of the more difficult resources to farm in Warframe, and because of that, it creates a real bottleneck for you being able to rank up your mods, especially the Prime mods, considering each of them takes roughly 40,000 Endo. And recently with the Sacrifice update, we've been given 4 new Prime mods in the form of Umbral and Sacrificial mods. Because I myself have been farming for Endo recently, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have too, I wanted to make a video going over what I think is best for acquiring Endo in-game. For the most part, what I'd recommend in terms of farming your own Endo is running missions that have high chances to drop 400 Endo at a time. 400 Endo is basically the highest drop you can consistently farm for. The 2 missions that I recommend the most for doing this are Heiracon on Pluto and the rank 5 bounty on Cetus. I'm going to start out by talking about these missions, and then I'll move on to things like Ayatans sculptures and selling your duplicate mods for Endo. I hope that this will help both new players and maybe teach veterans a new technique or two for farming Endo. But let's get into it. I'm not going to go over my builds in detail for this, but if you have questions about them, please leave a comment. Starting out, I'm going to be using Frost for Heiracon. I personally think Frost is the best for excavation missions, and that's because you can lay down multiple bubbles, and on missions like Heiracon that have infested enemy types, you won't run into nullifiers that can take out your snow globe, meaning it stays up almost indefinitely. Here you can see me cast my snow globe over the point and then use my slide attack Atterax build to just kill all the enemies. Having the augment here, Chilling Globe, is very helpful, but definitely not necessary for this build. It basically just gives your snow globe a chance to freeze the enemies in place, which helps to prevent damage to the excavators. All you have to do is cast your snow globe over a point and periodically check on it to make sure that it still has energy. This should be pretty simple, and hopefully you guys understand the basics of using Frost during an excavation mission. If you don't, leave a comment and I'll do my best to answer any questions you have. But the way the reward works for this is you have a 25% chance every A rotation to get 400 Endo. If you're not familiar how the reward rotation in Warframe works, is that there are 3 reward pools: Rotation A, Rotation B, and Rotation C. These pools each have their own unique drops. So for this excavation mission, you have a 25% chance every A rotation to get 400 Endo. And the way the reward rotation works is it goes A, B, C. So that means the first 2 rewards you get will be from the A pool. This means you have a 25% chance for half of the rewards to be 400 Endo. And the reason that excavation is such a good mission for gaining this Endo is because you get rewards so quickly, meaning that you have a higher chance of getting more Endo. However, this is all RNG based, and technically you could just get the first 2 rewards from a mission and then leave and repeat. But for me personally, I find this both boring, and I'm also trying to farm some of the more rare rewards like Axie Relics from Heiracon. So my personal recommendation for this is to stay in the mission as long as you feel comfortable. Typically for me this is about 20 rotations, but it could vary depending on what kind of gear you have. The other Warframe I would recommend for Heiracon is Limbo. Especially after they buffed him, he's very good at protecting excavation points. All you have to do is cast your Cataclysm, Stasis, and then so long as the excavator is charged, you can just leave it alone and move around. But like I said, it's all RNG, and while recording this footage, I got a measly 600 Endo for one 20 round game, and just over 2k for a 28 round game. But like I said, I'm also farming Cryotic and Relics while I'm doing this, so it's not a complete waste of time. The next thing I want to talk about is the bounties for Cetus. These bounties have a chance to drop 400 Endo for the first 4 stages. The 5th stage doesn't have a chance to drop Endo, meaning that if you're just here for the Endo, you can do the first 4 and then leave before the 5th. If you're using this method, I'd suggest going in solo. My favorite solo frame for bounties is Mesa, but use whatever you feel most comfortable with. Now, while recording this footage, I was pretty unlucky with my drops. I only got 1 drop of 400 Endo in 2 bounty runs, and going to stage 4 they took me about an average of 7 minutes apiece. Your time will vary depending on what kind of missions you get and how long it takes you to move across the plains. There's not an even chance for Endo to drop every time. Let's look at the drop chances to better understand this. So as you can see, for the stage 1 bounty, there's a 50% chance for 400 Endo to drop. This means if you just want to queue up solo, run in, do stage 1, and then run back out, you're going to have a very high chance of getting Endo every time. For me, I don't really enjoy doing this because I can't farm other things at the same time, and Breath of the Eidolon is a pretty useless reward for me. But again, as the stages progress, you're going to have less of a chance of that Endo dropping. The number of stages you want to stay in is up to you, but like I said, I personally enjoy doing more of the bounty. But now that we've talked about the more normal missions, let's look at the arena mission, Vodyanoi on Sedna. Vodyanoi is the go-to mission for group endo farming, and that's because the enemies inside have a high chance to drop endo. But if you're using this method, you definitely want to have a group, whereas the last two I talked about, you're able to do solo. For Vodyanoi, the typical setup, 1 Nidus and 3 Necroses. If you're doing a public game, this is generally what you're going to see. If you're playing with your friends, you might use a different setup, and I'm not entirely sure what the absolute best setup is for this. But the 3 Necros, 1 Nidus works pretty well. The double resource booster has no effect on the endo drops. Using this method, I've gained anywhere from 200 to 1200 in a single 2-minute mission. This number varies greatly depending on how lucky you get. But overall, I'd say this is absolutely the most efficient way to farm endo in the game. But please be warned, it is boring as hell. You are only going to be farming endo, and you're going to be doing the same thing over and over again. So if you're planning on doing this, I'd recommend pulling up a comfortable chair, sitting down, and watching some TV while you farm. Here you've been watching me play as Nidus. All you want to do as Nidus is spam your 2, sucking in all the enemies, and allowing your teammates to kill them with their slash-based weapons. It's important to have a slash weapon in here, because it will increase the number of drops you get from the Necros' Death Crate by creating additional corpses. If you want to learn more about this, I suggest just reading the wiki. If you're playing Necros, all you have to do is activate your Death Crate and kill the enemies. Overall, this is pretty simple, it just takes some setup. This is my Nidus build. I've just gone for negative duration and range. If you want, you can also use the augment Larva Burst. For Necros, I'm using a basic max range Despoil build. On both of these you want to be using Corrosive Projection, as it will reduce a lot of the toughness from the enemies. And finally, let's talk about Ayatan sculptures and mods. Both of these are great ways to get a lot of endo. Ayatan sculptures are special objects you can find in missions, and also through the weekly alert from Maru's Bazaar. To do this mission, all you have to do is go to Maru's Bazaar and select the I'm looking for Ayatan treasures option. You can only do this once a week, but it's definitely worth doing. This will put you in a mission where the goal is to find a random Ayatan sculpture. If you're having trouble with these missions, operators are a great way to make them easy. And once you've gotten the Ayatan from the mission, you can then go back to the mod bench on your orbiter and click on the Ayatan sculpture to socket Ayatan stars into it. Socketing stars increases the total value of the sculpture. So as you can see here, the one I just got goes from 300 endo all the way up to 1500, which is a huge increase. When I first started playing, I didn't realize you could socket these sculptures. So please, if you're going to sell them back to Maru for endo, make sure that they're socketed. The next thing I want to talk about is selling your duplicate mods for endo. Over time, you're going to pick up a lot of duplicate mods that you don't need copies of. Every once in a while, it's a good idea to select duplicates in your mod bench and then sort by duplicates to dissolve the extra mods you don't need for endo. As you can see, just by selling my Ayatan sculptures and my extra mods, I got almost 10,000 endo in just a few minutes. You can also purchase these Ayatan sculptures from other players for platinum. To give a quick example of this, I offered to pay 12 platinum for any Ayatans in trade chat. 12 platinum is a little expensive for the basic Ayatans. They give you a little more than 1k endo apiece. But for this, I just wanted to have an example to show you guys. I've also put up buy orders on Warframe.Market for completed Ayatan sculptures, and I've been pretty successful with people selling me them at these prices. Just make sure that if you're listing these, they're at max rank, so you won't have to socket stars yourself. Paying just a few platinum for a couple thousand endo is definitely worth it if you have the plat to spare. And especially if you compare them to DE zone prices. I know it takes a lot to max out mods, and my hope is that at least one technique in this video helps you on the grind. If you did enjoy or find this video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you leave a like, and subscribe for future content.